Have you ever wondered how a movement aimed at promoting equality and dismantling oppressive norms could lead some men to cling more tightly to traditional conservative values? Do you know why, in a world increasingly defined by female empowerment and self-expression, many men seem to retreat into an ideology that critiques the very freedoms women have fought for? It's a curious paradox. Feminism, which seeks to liberate individuals from restrictive gender roles, has inadvertently prompted a reactionary movement among some men, driving them toward conservatism and a nostalgia for a bygone era. But is this shift genuinely about values, or is it a facade, an excuse to avoid confronting their own contradictions? In today's video, we'll explore different dynamics between feminism and traditional conservatism, revealing that perhaps the narrative is far more complex than it seems. Watch this video till end, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. So, let's get straight into the video. Number 1. The us versus them concept. Most of the contemporary male who identify themselves with religious or right-wing discourses do that not because they really believe in them, but for an us versus them scenario. The common outcome of this dichotomy is oversimplification that reduces the complexity of human experience into good versus bad and right versus wrong categories. It creates a space for judgment where people feel high in stature while condemning the living. This approach creates an environment where critical thinking is overshadowed by tribalism, taking away the personal choices that define how one is to live in faith or conservatism. This phenomenon is disturbing because, essentially and inherently, both conservatism and religion are meant to be personal choices deeply intertwined with individual beliefs and values. But more men are exiting the road of self-improvement for the comfort of group identity. Rather than doing the hard work of improvement to themselves or to read and understand the subtlety of their world, they tend to criticize those who don't live up to their narrow standards. This retreat into groupthink serves to diminish personal growth and introspection in all its beauty. It was a time when grandparents lived in a society where social standards were not as rigid as they are today, when many made their mates in the action of dancing to the beat of music under shimmering disco balls. Marriage less about what it does to prevent judgment and criticism, but more so about how it will make life even better together. This stands in utter contrast from today's youth, whom most young people in particular see everything, even social activities like dancing or drinking, as a way of seeking moral high ground over those who engage in it and declare them as degenerate. That is a dangerous trend, because today, people hide themselves behind conservatism and religious doctrine to justify their judgment instead of open dialogue and acceptance. This attitude, actually, is not short-sighted. It is rather an injustice to the principles that most people claim to stand by when living life. Self-righteousness of these men alienates not only others, but also undermines their own personal and moral development in this vicious cycle of judging, with a blow to the very tenets of compassion and understanding that are attacked on the other front. Number 2. The paradox of objectification. The relationship norms and societal aspects have gone completely haywire in the contemporary world, where the relationship dynamics of gender are concerned as well. Perhaps the most important phenomenon of recent years is the empowerment of women, which, to the surprise of many a person, has brought forth objectification, but this time not through the hands of men, but rather through those of women. In liberating themselves from the traditional forms of objectification, women had learned exactly how they could monetize their image and identity, thus allowing them to use the likes of OnlyFans. In this way, newfound agency has granted women financial independence, but simultaneously paved the way for a type of hypocrisy among men. Men who earlier celebrated the objectification of women now sit in critique of those same acts. The same men who consumed and benefited from the labor of those women now lecture and administer criticism over those choices as if they were somehow beyond it all. It just goes to show that something much deeper is going on here. Many of these critics are themselves participants in the very culture they threaten to excoriate. Many people, especially married men, are frequent users of OnlyFans and portray a disconnection between public persona and private life. In fact, 90% of all the users of OnlyFans are married men, which simply goes to say that as of now, marriage does not fulfill whatever emotional or physical needs people crave, In addition, most believe that effective and blissful marriages are encouraged if both spouses cut themselves off from society and isolate themselves in their nuclear family unit. As a matter of fact, this view neglects the fact that community, social relationships, and shared childhood and life experiences lie at the heart of child raising and sound relationship building. Traditionally, communities were strongly submerged in a network of living that included neighbors and extended family and had an active role in child raising. These relationships provided support, guided advice, and a feeling of accountability, often lacking in nuclear families of today. Thus, men's traditional conservatism, which is a counter-reaction to feminism and sexual liberation, does not really deal with the problem it raises. It is not real personal development or better connections that are at risk. Instead, the idea of this movement becomes an illusion behind which one can withdraw from their own contradictions and still retain old values. Anyway, the triumph for traditional conservatism is nothing but the inability to take into account such a thing as specific features of today's relationships and mutual obligations of both sexes. Number 3. Revelation of the real woman. Now, women are slowly removing their masks and challenging traditionalistic outlooks and dogmas. Instead of a point of conclusion that the women have always been this way and so on, most of the men deny and hold on to the old-fashioned images of femininity and morality. The resistance towards change can at times be justified by unwillingness to embrace harsh realities of the autonomy of a woman and unpredictability identified with her identity. There have always been doctrines and religions throughout the world concerning women's behavior and promiscuity. They did not evolve randomly. These were derived from a shared experience of people's nature and social constructs. Different cultures have comprehended how an unconstrained amount of promiscuity may create familial chaos and degrade lineage. It is for this very reason that most of the religions thought of controlling and guiding women's sexuality by underlining modesty and fidelity. As women have been empowered to self-redefine their identities, so too has it brought a challenge for men to adapt to the change of expressions of femininity. Rather than recognizing and understanding that women have always had a broader range of behaviors throughout history, many men have been transformed into projecting their discomfort onto the woman, declaring them fallen or of dubious moral character. This reaction generally serves to further the patriarchal notion that tries to regulate female sexuality and conduct rather than understand it. The idea that females only recently start becoming expressive of their real selves is a misconception. Historical context would reveal that women always considered their identities within societal constraints, and this recent revelation simply shows their empowerment to escape the living bonds created by those constraints. Rules sanctioned by religion were not just for control, but also from a place of understanding complexities within the human relationship and need for social stability. Finally, this skirmish between acceptance and denial is seminal. Men have to come to terms with their own uneasy feelings and realize that the development of the female identity is in no way a diminution of worth or character, but rather reflects a natural and necessary progression in the continued journey toward gender equality. That's all for this video. We hope you have found this video informative and interesting. What do you think? Do you believe the conservative shift among men is a legitimate response to feminism, or is it simply a misguided attempt to cling to outdated ideals? Let us know in the comment section. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon for more interesting videos like this. Thank you for watching our video.